Hello everybody, how are we all doing today? My name is Griffin and it is still summer here in San Francisco. Somehow, I don't know, it is too hot. It is finally starting to cool down, but we were going through a really massive heat wave and I was sweating all the time. That's why I just made a deodorant video a week ago. Like, fun fact, I filmed these all in kind of like chunks, so I try to space them out so that I'm not sitting on empty time anymore, but it is still very hot. And when I think of heat, I tend to think of sunscreen. And in my last video I did on sunscreen, I promised that I would do a roundup of 4 new age Korean sunscreens that I would like to compare and contrast, kind of help you make the right decision. And in this video, I am not going to be talking about the Purito Centella Unscented sunscreen. I am not going to give it any more of a mention other than what I'm going to say right now. This is dead to me now. I know, right? Like, just kind of like shocker value. This is dead to me. And the reason why I say that is this uses, frankly, worse sun filters than the 4 sunscreens I'm going to talk about. And as such, I want to be using the best stuff for my skin. There are options that are not this that I feel apply better, that just protect me better, that I have more fun putting on my skin, and I'm more confident in the sun protection level, that the only reason now I see to buy this is the price and the volume. Where the price is cheaper than all of these, and the volume is 10 milliliters more. This isn't a 60 milliliter tube, and all of the products I'm going to be talking about come in 50 milliliter tubes. But I think the Purito was a great entry and a great step into kind of being the first to push the narrative of these Korean sunscreens into being better, into getting better. But now I don't really see a place for it. And if you have seen Leah Yu's videos on sunscreens, there's one video that I really like where she talks about how everything kind of comes from labs, and a lot of the times when you see 2 products that are super similar, they come from the same labs. The Purito is going to come from the same lab, as far as I know, as the Klairs UV Essence, the chemical filter sunscreen that they sell. That one comes in an 8 milliliter tube, but less people talk about it because it does have the orange essential oil in it. I actually find that that one applies better and also comes in a larger tube than this one, but they essentially have the same base, the same protectors, the same vehicle for the most part, even though this one tends to pill a little bit more than the Klairs one. And the same thing is true out of all the sunscreens I'm going to be talking about in this video, where all of these sunscreens were made by a lab in Korea that is known as greencos. And I don't know a lot about this lab. They do have a website, but it is in Korean, of course. They are a Korean company. And the reason why this is important is because, again, these are all sunscreens that use the same base. They have a kind of a pre-made formula at this lab where they are using the exact same SPF filters because they have been tested and approved by the Korean kind of resource that regulates all of those things to be an SPF 50 plus PA4 plus lotion, and then is kind of working directly with these brands to make the formula a little bit more personal and to make it more in line with the line and the brand that that company is wanting to be. And that really is where the true differences are going to come. For the most part, all of these sunscreens should protect you the same amount because they are from the same lab and use the same base. That might not necessarily be true in practice, but I have no great way of testing that, so I'm going to assume for these purposes that they are all going to have the same protection level. So I will be focusing on how it feels, how it applies, and the actual other beneficial ingredients that go on alongside a sunscreen. The reason why I say the Purito is dead to me is because they use a mixture of Uvinol A+ and Uvinol T150 as their sun filters, and these are very good filters. The issue is that the protection of both of them, while it should cover the full range of UV light that is out there, the other sunscreens I'm going to be talking today use a mixture of Uvinol A+ and Tinosorb S, which encompasses an even more kind of all-encompassing range of UV filters and UV light with less irritation, less just kind of stuff going on, and just really makes use of what I am to believe from my research are the 2 most effective SPF filters that are on the world market today instead of using two from the same company and just kind of hoping that works out. And I think is something that I want to put on my skin to ensure best protection that I have. So, Purito, I'm sorry, you're dead to me. The first sunscreen I'm going to talk about today is the sunscreen that I already have talked about on this channel, and I think it makes a lot of sense because I believe that it's going to be the closest to the actual baseline that we have for what greencos is making in their sunscreen, and that is the Be Plain Clean Ocean Moisture sunscreen that we have going on right here. And this is a sunscreen from a company called Be Plain. I will quickly recap again that the whole idea of this company is that they try to make their products as simple and non-irritating as possible. It's all in the name of Be Plain. And this is just a very basic no-frills sunscreen. It's very lightweight, it has the sun protection filters in it, and it's got some niacinamide and some adenosine, and that's about it. We also have some glycerin as a humectant and maybe one or two plant extracts at the very end of the list, but this is not trying to be anything more than a sunscreen, and I highly respect that from it. I have finished this one, but I always keep a tiny bit just for some textural kind of show-offs in regards to all this, where it definitely has a nice, creamy, lightweight feel to it, and it spreads out very, very nicely and smoothly on the skin, leaving no white cast and only the slightest amount of dewiness on your skin. It doesn't leave your skin feeling greasy at all, no shininess, but also not mattifying like a lot of people like to see in a sunscreen. I don't really want to be kind of mattified. That usually corresponds with dryness in my opinion. So overall, I think this is a very, very solid contender, especially for those of you with sensitive skin. I apologize for the horn honking, even though my windows are closed. I live in a city and I can't control any of this. But as I was saying, I think this is definitely one of the best choices for people with extremely sensitive skin because there isn't a lot of extra stuff in here that could possibly cause issues and all of that. And this is much more in line with what I would consider to be American dermatologist friendly. And when I say that, I mean reducing as many possible irritants as possible instead of introducing as many soothing ingredients as possible. This takes the reduce chances. Like, no allergies are going to be triggered by this. I mean, of course, there are allergies that could be triggered by this, but the chances of that, if you were triggered by this sunscreen and not any of the other three sunscreens, I would probably find that to be very, very weird and inconsequential because this is using a lot of more traditionally kind of chemical or lab grade cosmetics instead of just the extracts. Next up, we have probably the most famous sunscreen on this list because it is probably from the most famous brand on this list, at least in the Western market, and that is the Keep Cool Sun Essence. What is the actual name? Soothe Bamboo Sun Essence. Again, this is a 50 milliliter tube. It is SPF 50 plus PA4 pluses. Those are given for all of these. And this uses Keep Cool's kind of big marketing thing where they like to use bamboo as kind of a soothing and calming ingredient. But instead of just having bamboo in here, they are also making it probably the most similar on this list to the Purito. So if the Purito is one that you actually really like, this is probably going to be the closest choice because this also does use Centella in it. We have Centella asiatica extract in here for additional soothing purposes, as well as the niacinamide and adenosine that I talked about earlier. We have some sodium hyaluronate for some hydrating going on here. We have some honeysuckle extract going on in here. There is no fragrance in here whatsoever though. So these are only using extracts. So if you have a sensitivity towards any of these extracts specifically, I would say to steer away from this one and maybe lean towards the Be Plain. But overall, this I think is going to be the most kind of marketing, it makes sense, where you have so many of these popular ingredients that are known to be very, very good and have already shown to be very successful in the Purito one and have just kind of updated it and made it better. You are getting 10 milliliters less for a more expensive price, but I think that it is worth it because you are getting, in my opinion, a better formula where it is not nearly as tacky as the Purito one, and I think it just applies even better, and I love the applicator. It uses this little plastic tip to really make sure that you're getting everything that you want out of it, and it's not going to get stuck. So when I squeeze it onto my hand, it goes out slowly. It doesn't kind of all come out at once, so you can get a very controlled amount coming in. And it also has that nice creamy feel. Like, yeah, these are all from the same base, so they should all look very similar, and it rubs in very nicely as well. It has a nice, very lightweight but still moisturizing feel to it. I'd say it's a little bit heavier than the Bee Plan, where because you have those extra humectants and you have those extra ingredients in there, it has a little bit more oomph going on with it, but it's still extremely lightweight. I don't feel anything extra on here, but I do feel the extra burst of hydration that maybe I wasn't getting from the Bee Plain one. And again, we have the same kind of finish, where it is not mattifying, but it's also not leaving me feeling greasy and oily. It sinks in very well, but we have those slight differences that come from those extra extracts and extra humectants going on here that are going to give it more hydration. Because of its aforementioned popularity in the Western market, I do believe this is going to be the easiest one out of the 4 to find here in kind of the English-speaking world. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because this might be one of my favorite ones out of the bunch. They're all so similar that it's very hard to kind of nitpick, and I enjoy that it has these extra antioxidant plant extracts and these extra humectants in here to kind of make it more of a full-fledged moisturizer than just a sunscreen, and that really benefits me. And this does feel more of, I was just talking with the Bee Plan, how it fits more of the kind of Western idea of skin-friendly, dermatologist-friendly. This is a lot more of the East Asian version of that, where it's using soothing plant extracts like the Centella, like the bamboo, to say this is why it's good for sensitive skin. It's because it's going to soothe and calm down your skin after it has a flare. And that, I think, is the big selling point for this. If you are somebody who registers more to that train of thought and enjoys those specific ingredients going onto your skin. Next up, we have one from a not as well-known brand, but I think is actually slowly starting to get some popularity in here, and that is Hyggee or Hyggee or Hyggee. Again, obviously I don't know Korean, but this is the RELEIF Sun Moisturizer. This is starting to become a very popular sunscreen, and I have really enjoyed it. This is, again, trying to do its own thing, where instead of where we had the Keep Cool, which I just talked about, and had the bamboo water, this uses a cypress water instead, which is supposed to have other benefits. And I also just enjoy it when companies decide not to just use plain old water and to use kind of more infused things to make it maybe a little bit extra oomph going on there, making it a little bit more interesting. I don't really like being bored with my skincare, and that's the type of way that you can stop making me bored. You can say, look, we're actually actively trying to put things into our sunscreen that is just going to do its own thing. Again, all these have the niacinamide and the adenosine. I believe that is a part of the base of all these sunscreens. This is, actually you can find this on Olive Young as well as the Bee Plain in a 2-for-1 deal. So it is, I think, very reasonably priced compared to the Keep Cool, because you can get 2 of these for the same price, at least for a limited time. So we're doing pretty well there. This is still 50 milliliters. This is still SPF 50+, PA of 4+, and we are still getting a bunch of extracts in here. Different extracts, like we are getting fig extract. I know that I'm From has just a fig line, so if you are a fan of the I'm From fig line, this is absolutely a sunscreen for you. This is one that is going to fit a lot of your needs and desires and likes. We also have date palm fruit extract, we have hyaluronic acid, we have xylitol, so we definitely still have the humectants in here. We have bisabolol. I am not pronouncing that right, but that is an extract that comes from chamomile that is also meant to be a very soothing ingredient. So it is very, very similar, or almost a parallel to the Keep Cool, in that it's trying to do very similar things, where it has the antioxidants from the plant extracts, and it has the humectants from sodium hyaluronate, and it has the xylitol, and then we also get soothing ingredients in it as well, but it's using different ones. So it's kind of taking another path. It's doing its own thing. And when I put it onto my skin, This one, I'm gonna try doing it on my arm so that I'm not overlapping sunscreen on sunscreen, so they all have a fair chance. This one is probably the most moisturizing out of all of them. When I say moisturizing, I don't mean heavy. It's not heavyweight, it's not going to clog your pores, it's not gonna be occlusive, but it definitely leaves the most kind of fully nourished feeling out of all of them, and I think is a very viable candidate for when you are more dry skinned. This is probably going to be the best choice for you out of all of them, and if it is wintertime, it is going to be the best choice for that season because it is going to do a very good job of taking over as a moisturizer step for those of us with more normal to oily skin. It doesn't need much else going on with it. And I really appreciate that. I like that. I like that when a moisturizer and sunscreen combo isn't trying to kind of skimp on the sunscreen, but it's marketing itself as a sunscreen first. That is how I like it done. And if I get those moisturizing properties from my sunscreen as well, that's just a great thing on top regarding all of that. I don't like putting on a moisturizer in the morning, so this is a very good option. The one note I will say about this sunscreen, well, maybe a couple of notes because I'm very critical about a lot of things, is A, it does have a bit of smell to it. This is a fragrance-free product, but it does have just kind of the natural smell of the ingredients going on, which fades very, very quickly, but the immediate sniff of it just kind of gives you just a mild kind of I don't know about that. But then it goes away and you're like, okay, no, I'm cool with that. And it's nothing really to be worried about, but if you are somebody who is a hypersensitive kind of fragrance person, I would avoid this one. Additionally, this has my least favorite packaging out of all of them because this plastic stuff is kind of this weird, soft, aluminum foil imitation plastic that I don't think works as well as aluminum foil and just is worse than a normal plastic they would be using anyway. And the kind of tip of it definitely is the most it's gonna get places. So least favorite packaging out of all of them. It's funny because all of these have different packaging. Here's 3 of them right here. We have this tube thing, then we have a flip cap, and then we have a twist off cap. Small things. I definitely really like it. I am still using it. I have not finished this one up yet, but especially as it starts to get colder, this is going to be my go-to that I very, very obviously reach for in regards to all of that, and is a great choice for those of you who enjoy that. And finally, we have the most recent one that I got, and the one that I have frankly tested the least, so sorry, but that is the Roundup Birch Juice sunscreen. I cannot tell you what the actual English name of it is because it is all on Korean in this tab. But again, this is 50 milliliters. This is SPF 50 plus and PA of 4 pluses, and this is the only one that is technically not fragrance free. But don't be alarmed. This is not using any of those essential oils in it that I am super concerned about, like the citrus ones in particular. This uses chamomile essential oil. And chamomile essential oil is one of the essential oils that, while I would still prefer it not to have that in there, I prefer an extract instead, if anything, or even just the actual compounds that give you the beneficial chamomile compound benefits and all that. It is one of the essential oils that I do find to be one of the less irritating ones and less of the ones of concern, and it is low enough on the ingredients list that I'm not super worried about it. It definitely does add to the scent though. It does smell like chamomile if you enjoy that, and if you don't enjoy that, this is an immediate avoid, and if you're sensitive to essential oils at all, this is immediate avoid. Like the last 2 that I mentioned, this is still kind of trying to be that all-in moisturizer type of thing, and I enjoy it, and it does it in similar ways using different ingredients once again, where we have the niacinamide and we have the adenosine, we have the chamomile oil, and we also start seeing things like ascorbic acid in here. We are actually using pure vitamin C inside of here. So instead of just relying on the extracts, we are using tried and true antioxidants in here to give you those antioxidant benefits. We also do see hyaluronic acid in here, and it is doing the hydrating, it is doing the antioxidants, it is doing the sunscreen, just like the other ones we were talking about. As is true to the name of the sunscreen, this does have birch sap in it as an additional ingredient that has shown some benefits going on it, but if you are sensitive towards birch, avoid this as well. And we do have even more traditional antioxidants in here in the form of tocopherol as vitamin E, so you actually are getting the vitamin C and vitamin E inside of the sunscreen, which is a really nice thing to have, actually. It is definitely a unique thing that I would not expect to have in a sunscreen, but I would naturally pair with the sunscreen. So having this be an all-in-one option is very nice, and I very much appreciate it. This one also has a packaging that I'm not a huge fan of. It has the same kind of front as the Hyggee one that I don't love, but the plastic quality definitely is better, in my opinion, of the tube, so I do appreciate that. It has the same exact look and kind of feel as the other sunscreens, and it rubs in, I would say, extremely lightweight. I'd say this one isn't super moisturizing. This one is very much more of a sun essence texture to it. It doesn't really leave that much extra. So this is the one that I am currently reaching to as it is still warm weathered, and I do not want something super heavy on my face. So it's been working out well for that. As I did mention, it does have a smell. It is the longest lingering one out of all of them because it is an essential oil instead of extracts as the others, but I wouldn't say it is permanent. It does go away, it does dissipate after some time. I think this one is personally the one that I am not going to repurchase out of all of them, just because I do not want the essential oils in my skincare. It's just a personal preference that I have. And while I do really appreciate the use of the antioxidants in here, I already use a vitamin C serum every day that usually does have vitamin E in it as well, so I do not feel the need to double up. But if you are somebody who does not like having an involved morning routine, who you want to have everything be on one step, this is absolutely one to consider because it is doing a little bit of everything all in one step and using tried and true ingredients that are very well studied to give you those results. So those were the 4 sunscreens that I had to talk about. Let's do a quick recap where we had the Be Plain, which is the most basic, the most, I would say, safe, and the most similar to what you would get from all I want is a sunscreen, nothing more, nothing less. I want it to do its job well and pretty damn good it does. And you can get a pretty good price on this because you can get a 2-for-1 deal on Olive Young Global, and for that I say you are amazing for the sensitive skinned of all of us, and good job for doing that. The Keep Cool is the Purito killer, where it is doing everything that Purito is doing, but better in all cases except for volume and price, which it's using better sun protectants, and it's also still using these soothing ingredients that Purito has been using. It has a better texture to it, and overall I think just has better packaging as well. It is the choice for those of you who want to graduate from the Purito. The Hyggee is the most moisturizing out of all of them, where if you are somebody who is on the drier skin kind of scenario, or if you are an oily skinned person in the winter who is trying to still use less moisturization but needs something a little bit more as it starts to dry down, this is the choice for you, where it's going to give you a lot of those benefits from the Keep Cool and all these other sunscreens while having more of that moisturizing factor to it, so that you do not feel like you are just kind of not protecting your skin barrier enough, and you are also protecting yourself from the sun. And finally, we have the Round Lab, which is for those of you who maybe want a little bit of pampering in the morning. Maybe you want a little bit of a floral smell to help wake you up. And it's also for those of you who want your sunscreen to do a little bit more than what it's asking for, where it has antioxidants in it that are tried and true and not just the derivatives from plant extracts. It is going to do everything that it wants to do, and it's also pretty lightweight, so you can layer plenty of stuff over it as well if you need to. And that's all I have for this video. I hope that you learned something new and maybe have found a new sunscreen that you would love to pick up. I am not giving any concrete favorites on any of these because, again, I do think all of them have their values and their benefits. I don't think there is a right choice for any of them, which is very nice. I love having options out there and competition, as I talk about all the damn time. I'm very glad that we have some options now that make us excited to protect our skin from the sun and not just kind of going, well, I like this one more than the Western ones. I like this one's more than the ones that I can buy at home. These are ones that you're just excited to put on your skin every day. You're like, yes, this works so well. I love how it feels. This is working exactly the way that I want it to. And I hope that maybe one of these is the right fit for you. I would love to hear about this in the comments, if any of these might sound like they are the right choice for you, or if you have tried any of these and want to offer your own opinion and maybe even disagree with me. I am open to conversation. And besides that, why don't you give me a like down below if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you would love to see more skincare content. You can also follow me on Instagram at Griffin Skincare, all one word. And until then, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.